Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a preview for a brand new game coming to Kickstarter very soon. This is from publisher Ankama and a long list of well-established designers. Arkeis is an adventure game that is going to take place over multiple different scenarios. In fact, the game is going to ship with one tutorial and 7 different linked scenarios, and how well you progress in one of them is going to have consequences in future scenarios. Being that this is a cooperative game, the success of your mission is going to depend on each and every one of the players playing. You're either going to win together or you're going to die together as a team. The goal of each of these game sessions depends on the actual episode itself. Now the scenario is going to evolve based on which doors that you open, which tokens and cards that you draw, and which monsters that you battle in each of the scenarios. You can kind of think of the game as one long campaign, linked together by multiple different episodic content, which can be played over multiple different 60-minute sessions. Now to begin the game, each of the different players is going to pick one of the multiple different adventurers that they will use throughout the entire campaign. Each adventurer is going to have their own player board that's going to have all the different areas for cards that they can acquire throughout the game. Each of them is also going to have their own variable ability, as well as slots for scratches and trauma cards. Each player is also going to have a deck box, which is basically their backpack. This backpack is going to have cards that carry through from one game to the next, so that the items that you get will be able to be used through multiple different sessions. Each of these 7 scenarios, including the tutorial itself, is going to have its own individual tuck box, which is going to have a number of different cards, tokens, and possibly stickers that are going to mark up your logbook. Now the logbook will also have the setup for each of the individual episodes, which will tell you how to put the different maps together, including doorways and additional tokens, as well as a narrative that will progress the story. And before I actually get into the gameplay itself, there's some other things in this logbook that are very, very unique to this style of game. Number one, depending upon your achievements through the course of the game, you're going to be marking check marks on a grid. These grids will open up coins, experience for your characters, which come in the form of different cards, as well as special items that you can find depending upon how well that you do. In fact, on some of the pages, it'll even tell you the outcome of your particular mission, depending upon what you accomplish within that mission. In the back, there's also an area for your camp. This camp is going to allow you to place stickers that are going to upgrade, giving you new abilities and new possible things that you will be able to accomplish, such as removing trauma from the damage and the injuries that you take during the game. The game itself is actually very simple to play, and you're going to follow along the bottom of your player board the 4 steps that take place during your player turn. The very first thing that happens is you do any of these start of turn effects. Now these things will come into play through a wide variety of cards, typically the monsters that you encounter or the different types of cards that could be placed upon your character. Next, enemies who are in contact with that particular player at the start of the turn is then going to take any actions associated with that enemy. Each enemy is represented by possibly 4 or more cards, giving variety to each of these enemies, which is going to have their hit points, any of the abilities that they have, and any of the combat triggers on the right-hand side of these cards. So a wide variety of different things are going to happen with each of the different enemies that you're going to encounter. Next, that player is allowed to reorganize or trade with other players in their location. To trade, you simply give something to another player, which they can then use or place in their backpack. Also, each player is allowed to have 4 pieces of equipment around their player board. These can be weapons or items or armor and so forth. You're only allowed to hold 1, so anything that you can't hold can be freely interchanged with anything that's within your backpack that you've collected previously. Finally, the player is allowed to take their actions. Now, there's a wide variety of different actions that you can take, but you can only take 2 per turn. The 4 actions that you can take, again, are the 4 different areas around your board. One of them is to move, one of them is to search, one of them is to support, and then the final one is to fight. Typically in this game, you're going to be searching a wide variety of different locations, which are normally represented by the tokens that you see in the various areas. These tokens are universal to be used throughout the entire campaign, but what they represent is going to be different depending upon what is in that episodic scenario itself. And those are represented by the cards that you see here. So that when you collect this token itself, you're actually going to look through the green deck, find that particular card, turn it over and read it. Now these can be items that you find, they can be events that take place, they could trigger traps and so forth. That's how the actual scenario plays out, that's how the story evolves. Most of these scenarios will have a time limit imposed upon them. These are represented by the fate tokens that you see here, and how they're introduced again is going to be revealed through the course of that particular scenario. Win or lose, you'll always have an outcome within the story, which is represented by one of the stickers within the box. You're going to actually take the sticker and place it within that expedition logbook. Combat is the last aspect that I want to talk about, and it's handled simply through dice. Each one of the monsters is going to have a chart on the right-hand side, which is going to show what happens depending upon the dice that are rolled. Typically, every time you roll a die, you're going to be doing damage to that creature. However, some of the different facings, depending upon the creature that you're up against, is going to do scratches back to you. Scratches are represented by tokens that are played on your player board. And when you have 4 of them, you're going to gain a trauma card, which will carry through from one game or one session into the next. But you're going to remove all the different scratches, so you're going to keep refilling that. And there's a wide variety of different buildings that you can build in your camp through the experience and the money that you've acquired that can remove that trauma or give you enhancements. So that is Arkeis, a beautiful looking game with incredible production values. There's a lot of other secrets in this game that I'm simply not going to tell you here. You'll have to figure it out for yourself. If you like adventure games, if you like campaign games that are on the lighter side, this is going to fit perfectly into your collection. If you have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. I will answer them for you. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. And I will catch you guys next time.